Before there was earth, before there was time, there was heaven. Not the soft, cloud-draped paradise imagined in paintings, but a realm of unimaginable scale and radiance. Its streets were not mere gold, but a substance purer than any metal, reflecting the light of the Eternal One in every direction. The air shimmered with living sound, the voices of countless angels, each created with purpose, each singing the harmonies of creation itself. In the center stood the throne of God, a seat of infinite authority, surrounded by a sea of glass like crystal. Around it, seraphim covered their faces with their wings, for even they could not gaze upon the fullness of His glory. The throne was not empty. From it flowed the law, the love, and the power that held all things together. It was in this place, flawless, uncorrupted, that the seeds of war were first planted. Among the angelic hosts was one whose beauty defied mortal description, Lucifer, the light-bearer. He was an anointed cherub, a guardian who stood in the very presence of God. Scripture describes him as adorned with every precious stone, sapphire, emerald, onyx, diamond, and topaz, all woven into his very being. His voice was like a choir unto himself, each note pure and flawless. Lucifer's role was unique. He was entrusted with guarding the throne, leading the worship of heaven, and reflecting the glory of God to the created hosts. For eons uncounted, he fulfilled his duty with perfection. But beauty, power, and proximity to greatness can distort the heart when self begins to rise above service. At first it was only a thought, small, quiet, and fleeting. But thoughts, when nurtured, grow. Lucifer began to see himself not just as a reflection of the Creator's glory, but as a source of it. The angels adored his music, they marveled at his beauty, and in their admiration, a seed of pride took root. If I am so loved, he thought, why should I serve? Why should the throne not be mine? The book of Isaiah captures this moment of ambition in chilling clarity. I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will be like the Most High. What began as a whisper in the heart became an obsession. And in heaven, where truth and light were absolute, there was no hiding it. Lucifer began to speak in secret to other angels. His words were wrapped in beauty and reason, promising freedom from the rule of the Almighty. He spoke of a new order where angels could choose their own destinies, unbound by divine command. A third of heaven's host listened and believed. But there was one who stood in opposition, Michael, the Archangel. Unlike Lucifer, Michael's glory was not in his beauty, but in his unwavering loyalty to the throne. He was heaven's protector, a commander whose very presence struck awe in friend and foe alike. Lucifer's challenge was now open defiance. The lines were drawn, allegiance to the eternal king, or to the light-bearer who sought his place. Heaven had never known war. Until now, the rebellion could not remain as words alone. Scripture describes it with stark finality. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels. Lucifer, now called Satan, the adversary, led a host that darkened the very skies of heaven with their wings. Their beauty was now twisted by rebellion, their voices no longer singing praise, but war cries. Michael's forces assembled in perfect formation. There was no hatred in them, only resolve. Their cause was just, their orders clear: defend the throne at all cost. Then came the first strike. Lightning split the crystal sea. The clash of power shook the foundations of heaven. Blades forged in divine light met weapons warped by corruption. What had been a realm of perfect harmony was now a battlefield of fire and storm. The war raged not only in the courts of heaven, but across the dimensions of creation. Angelic legions clashed in realms unseen by human eyes, their movements faster than thought, their strength shaking the fabric of space itself. Lucifer fought with cunning, weaving deceptions into his attacks. He struck at Michael's forces where they were weakest, rallying his followers with promises of imminent victory. Yet Michael's armies, disciplined and unyielding, countered every advance. The weapons of this war were not of human design. Flaming swords, arcs of living light, and shields of truth turned aside the blows of darkness. The sound was like thunder without end. Neither side would yield. The question was not merely who would rule heaven, but whether the very order of creation would stand or fall. For a time, it seemed Lucifer's rebellion might overwhelm heaven's defenders. His charisma still swayed some who hesitated on the edge of loyalty. The brilliance of his attacks made even seasoned warriors falter. But Michael did not fight alone. The voice of the Almighty rang out, not as a plea, but as a decree. Powers surged through Michael and his hosts, a strength beyond their own. With renewed force, the loyal angels drove the rebels back. Lucifer, once the highest of the high, found himself pressed to the very edges of heaven. His confidence began to crack. For the first time, the thought entered his mind. He might lose. The battle reached its climax at the boundary between heaven and the created universe. Here, Michael stood face to face with Lucifer. The light-bearer's once radiant form was now shadowed, his eyes burning with fury. Michael's voice was like rolling thunder. The throne is not yours. The kingdom is not yours. Return to the nothing from which rebellion comes. With a final surge, Michael struck. The force of it tore through Lucifer's defenses, casting him down. The rebels fell with him, their cries echoing through the vastness. Scripture records the outcome plainly. They did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. The gates closed. The war was over, but the consequences had only begun. Lucifer and his followers were hurled into the lower realms, the place that would later be known to mankind as Earth's domain. No longer clothed in heaven's light, they became beings of shadow, their beauty twisted into forms that inspired fear rather than wonder. Here, Satan's war shifted from open battle to subtle corruption. He could no longer storm the throne, but he could wage war against the Creator's newest creation, mankind. The rebellion in heaven became the temptation in Eden. The war for the throne became a war for human hearts. Though the first battle was won, Scripture reveals that the conflict did not truly end. It continues across ages and realms, not in the courts of heaven, but in the choices of humanity. Michael still stands as heaven's protector, appearing throughout history to defend God's people. From Daniel's visions to the final prophecy in Revelation, where he will again rise to strike down the dragon. The story of Michael versus Lucifer is not just ancient history. It is the opening chapter of a cosmic struggle that will conclude only when the eternal king establishes his reign without rival. In that day, the rebellion that began in the beauty of heaven will be crushed beneath the weight of justice. The throne will stand, unshaken, and Michael, the loyal commander, will have fulfilled his duty from the first war to the last. You've just uncovered another hidden chapter of history with animated Bible mysteries. If you enjoyed this journey, remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story where the Bible's words, ancient legends, and divine mysteries come together. Until next time, heaven holds the secrets. Never stop searching.